Welcome back. Another episode of Befuddled and Confused. Please like, subscribe, and share and comment below. So we're gonna kick off this week with a topic that Lizzie picked. Today we're going to be talking about the unemployment checks that are going out with the $300 extra payments, right?
Yes.
So I think this is a very nuanced subject, meaning there are very many different layers to this. However, I think Lizzie has a different opinion on that. What is your opinion on this subject?
In general,
Yeah.
there's actually a lot of jobs out there, and a lot of people are collecting unemployment instead of going back to work because they're making more money. And actually, some of those, you're making more money, especially if you're self-employed, but you have people out there that didn't even work the last couple of years, but somehow they managed to go through the system and say they're self-employed, so now they're getting that income.
Correct. So, I think it was last week, the jobs report came out, and there are more jobs available than there are people.
Mm-hmm.
However, we are still, according to our government, in the middle of a pandemic. So how can we tell people that they need to get a job when we don't have a pandemic under control? Do you think it's fair? So we just had a friend, right, that
Mhm.
quit his job.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think it's fair for him to have to go to work every day when people around him don't have a vaccination and he feels unsafe?
No, and I think it feels that way too because people, for instance, I did it not too long ago where I had allergies, in the past year, and I was like, oh, I need to go get a COVID test. And I got at least a week off of work, and people are doing it, and, then they go on vacation to another state and come back. And, there's other states like Florida where they have the Delta virus coming from, and, you don't know that person coming back to work brought it with them.
Right. And so all these people that aren't working, do you think? So do we make the rule for the majority, or do we make the rule for the exception? Do you know what I mean by that?
I do. Some people can work from home. Like, I have a family member, she's working from home. She's already been told when you come back to work into the office, if you're not vaccinated, you're going to have to test, do the COVID test once a week at your own expense.
Right. So, do you know that 40% of the teachers in New York State are not vaccinated?
No, I didn't know that.
Did you know that not the majority, but I think it's 20 to 30% of the nurses in California aren't vaccinated?
Oh.
So how can we say it's okay for them to not be vaccinated and people that are vaccinated have to deal with the jeopardy of the breakthrough cases?
Mm-hmm.
Or someone that just got out of nursing school, hey, you gotta go get a job even though you're vaccinated,
Mm-hmm.
or you could be on unemployment and be safe with your health.
Yeah. Whether we get the vaccination or not, I think there's still a chance to get, COVID.
That's the breakthrough cases.
Yeah. I'm vaccinated. I still protect myself even though, I go out there, I work, drive, and, I wear my mask, It's not a guarantee, but I gotta work
Right.
to make a living.
So are you saying the government shouldn't give out the $300, or are you saying that people shouldn't be collecting unemployment, or which aspect are you against?
I think they need to stop giving out that extra money because a lot of people are taking advantage of it. There's people in prison collecting unemployment.
Yeah, California was one of those.
I deal with customers, whether it's driving for Uber or customer service, where they told me, I just had a rider last week, I picked him up from a bar to take him home, and he straight told me, oh, I'm not going back to work. Why should I? I have this extra money. I'm just gonna, keep getting it.
Right. So if we do a calculation, I'm bringing up my phone. Because right now unemployment is $750 a week. So if you divide that by 40, if someone worked 40 hours, that would mean they would make, I know it's backwards, $18.75 an hour on this unemployment that we're currently getting. So that means for someone to actually want to work, you have to pay them over $18.75. So going with, I'm flipping on the, and I'll be on the Democratic side. In order to get people off unemployment, you need to pay people more. So why don't people just? Why doesn't 7-Eleven? Because I know 7-Eleven was one of your jobs. Like, why doesn't people like 7-Eleven pay more? Why doesn't people like McDonald's just pay more? Like, why don't they pay $18.75 an hour?
I don't know, but I know a lot of jobs have that. They took it off, but I think it's coming back where people were getting paid like $2-3 more on top of what they were making because we're in a pandemic.
Right.
I know by where I live, I pass by McDonald's, and to start off, regular cashier, whatever, they're paying $17 an hour.
Right. So they're paying less than for someone to sit on their ass.
Yeah, $1 less, but I collected unemployment for a while, but then I was like, no, I gotta get off my butt and work.
Right. So if you look at it, you say $17 an hour. So McDonald's is paying $1.75 less. So I could sit at home, be with my family, possibly educate myself and figure out something that I want to do with my life for $1.75 more, or I could take $1.75 less an hour, give up 40 hours of my life to a company, have to pay gas, which is another expense, have to maintain my car, which is another expense, have to figure out my lunches, which is another expense if I forget it, then I have to take all those taxes out of my bills for what? So that is why people aren't going back. And then if you just take out the so let's take out the extra $300 a week. So if we divide $450, which you get in California, by 40 hours, that's $11.25. So that's well less than minimum wage. So my stance on this is I don't know how I feel, because if we stop it right now, who's gonna hire these people? If you've been collecting unemployment this whole time, so I'm on your side and I'm not, right? If I was a manager still, my first question is I'd look at someone's resume and see when the last time they worked. If they haven't worked in 3 months and this is their first interview with my company, I'd be like, so why are you just now coming for a job interview?
Yeah.
What have you been doing for 3 months? If they haven't worked during the whole pandemic, my first question would be, what new skill or hobby did you pick up during this pandemic? Because why would I want to hire someone that especially when this ends in September supposedly, and then all of a sudden everyone floods back to try and look for a job. Why should I hire you?
Yeah, and I think a lot of people are not going to have an answer for that.
Right.
Yeah.
What about the housing market? People don't realize oh yeah, if you follow the housing trends, there's supposed to be a big housing crash real soon.
Yeah.
Because of the moratorium, and that's going to be an opportunity for those that have worked through the pandemic to buy up houses. Because in order to get a loan, you have to have a house or a job for 2 years.
Yeah.
If you haven't had a job for 2 years, you ain't going to be able to buy a house. So by collecting the unemployment and not being employed, you're affecting a lot of things down the chain.
Yeah. Yeah, and I run into people all the time where they're not paying their rent, but they're receiving the income, but they're going on trips or on customers. That same people, every single day, what are they doing? Buying liquor, beer, cigarettes. But they say they can't pay their bills.
And where that mentality comes from is, I don't know if it's progressives or if it's the left, or on one side of the aisle, I don't know exactly how you divide the aisle. They say being a landlord is not a job. And so like why would I have to pay my rent if the government doesn't? If the government tells me I don't have to. However, what people don't realize is being a landlord is a job. Because if you're not paying your rent, who's paying the property mortgage?
Exactly.
Who's paying the taxes? Like when your air conditioning goes out or there's a leak in the roof, like who pays to fix it? Not only that, a lot of the people the majority of the rentals are people that own just one house.
Yeah,
And
they're
so,
small
so it's
landlords.
so it's a retirement. And so like if they're 65 or older and you're not paying you're not paying your rent, like you just put someone else. I've heard stories where people had to sell their retirement home because people weren't paying their mortgage.
Yeah. I mean, they're not even paying their light bill, their gas bill. Eventually, all these things have to get paid.
Do they though?
Yes, I know the government's helping right now with that moratorium, whatever you call it, but it's not helping everybody, and the people have to actually apply and, you know, to get their rent paid, but the landlord has to wait.
Right. And so if the government keeps extending the mortgage moratorium and you can't afford to keep your house, eventually your house gets foreclosed on.
Mm-hmm.
Who then buys up the house? The government.
Yep.
And like I say, the government in a facetious sense, because like there's Blackstone or Blackwater that's actually like buying up all the houses right now, and so they can rent them out. So as far as unemployment, like I think it's a good thing for some people.
Yeah, definitely.
I think what's happened is they made it too easy. And like going back to voting, I got my voting thing right here. Good thing you can see everything. But they mailed it to me for this recall that we're having in California. Like, how do they know that that's me?
Yeah.
You know, like everything is too easy for us to become dependent on the government. That could be very easily hacked. Goes back to unemployment. Like all you have to do is go online and check a box. Say that you applied for a job and you haven't heard back from the employer, and you get your unemployment. Like they should have it to where you have to get signed off to go in for an interview. Like, hey, I'm going for an interview. Can you sign this for me?
Yeah.
And then I send it in. Or like you have to get something signed off on your phone where it's electronically sent to the government saying, hey, you went for your interview. I have customers right now that people will call up and say they're looking for a job, set up an interview, and never show up, just so they could check off the box that they applied for a job.
I've actually done that years ago. I just would get the yellow pages, write down the address to whatever company, and send it in. There, I apply.
Yeah.
They can't. I believe they can't legally check if I did or not. You know, but
Well, and that's another thing is there's too many laws because like I don't know if the government call up if the employer can actually say yeah they came in for an interview, we didn't hire them.
yeah,
Because if they say we didn't hire them, then how are they supposed to say why they didn't hire them?
yeah.
You know, so the unemployment I think is a benefit to some people. However, what the other downside to what's happening with unemployment is, do you realize that people are getting more money to be on unemployment than people that have paid into Social Security right now?
Yep. That's a shame.
Right. So I these people that aren't doing anything or aren't looking for a job are getting paid more than my parents, and my parents have worked since they were probably 16, 17 years old.
Yeah, and that's not fair.
Right. And then they say that's a living wage. Well, if that's a living wage, how come we don't take care of our seniors? Why don't we up their Social Security?
Yeah.
So what is a living wage? And then like this minimum wage bullcrap. Like a lot of people say minimum wage you can't support a family on. Well, if you're still working at a minimum wage job and you have a family, like maybe you shouldn't have had the family.
Yeah.
Like, why haven't you moved up in your job? Why haven't you got a better job? Why haven't you got better skills? Like we live in a world of technology where like we have to better ourselves continually, and it's very easy to better yourself. YouTube's around, Facebook's around. Like you could sell stuff on Facebook. You could like read a million books that got those those Kindles out. You know,
Mm-hmm.
you go to the library and research stuff. They have courses online, like everything you could do to better yourself. Like you don't need to go to college anymore.
Yeah. And a lot of those things are free.
Yeah. And then like, why not have more than one job? You know, like if you only have one job, if you don't have a side hustle, then you're in trouble.
Yeah.
And like, if you didn't learn that during this pandemic, you're in worse shape than I thought.
Yeah.
You know.
I have 2 jobs. So.
Do you right now?
Yes, I do.
You got the other? You went?
Yeah, I did.
You went back to your old boss?
Back to my old boss. I have some goals and I gotta make money.
You don't have goals. I don't believe in goals. You have milestones.
Okay, well, I have milestones that I need to accomplish, so I need to work my ass off
Right.
to do it. So,
And so that's what we do around here. Is like we work. You know. There's 8 hour. Most jobs you work 8 hours, and you might sleep for 8 hours. That means you have 8 more hours for your side hustle. So that's your second job. It's your side hustle, which is gonna save you your money to do what you gotta do. And yes, the weekends are for fun, but like not the whole weekend.
yeah.
You know, I didn't work all week just to like sit on my butt during the weekend and not like make extra money. You know, because that's my plan is to get another, is to invest in an Airbnb. You know, so then that's an annual or a monthly income. You know,
Yeah.
and then like I have 2 jobs that I'm working right now. I'm trying to work on a third. I'm trying to, and then eventually get a 4th job. You know. So all this white privilege crap that you guys talk about, I don't know about because I got more than one job. Because if I had white privilege, I would not be working more than one job.
Hey, I'm Hispanic. I'm expected to work at least 2 jobs.
Yeah. I mean, if we want to get racist, if you're Jamaican, you'd have to have 10 jobs, you know? Like, but what is racist? Like having that kind of work ethic isn't really racist, you know?
Yeah.
So what other things you have to point out about the unemployment? Because you said you did a whole bunch of research.
Well, yeah, I was looking. I have my notes.
Ooh,
And
she
it
got
says
notes. Watch out, people.
9.8 million people are unemployed as of May 27, 2021. That's a lot of people. And that's just in, like, I think it said California or U.S., something like that. But
It's the U.S.
That's just, us, And I gotta take my glasses off. So they have found, remember I was talking about people in prison collecting money.
Yep.
There have been over 1,600 cases of fraud of people in prison.
And California is one of the worst ones.
Yeah, and it's the people out here applying for unemployment for these people.
All right.
Which is just crazy.
So I was talking to someone last week, and their baby mama, like during this pandemic, they decided to apply for the pandemic relief.
Mm-hmm.
Right out of the gate, they sent her a check for $18,000.
Wow.
And she had not been working for 3 years. So why is she getting the pandemic relief?
Mm-hmm. I had a customer who came with a brand new car a few months ago when I was working. And she told me she got it when you get all the back pay, with the pandemic relief. And I was just like, wow,
So, before you go on the next one, I just gotta ask you a question because I know one of your jobs you drive around a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Have you looked at the car lots lately?
At the car lots? What do you mean?
I
mean
like Ford, Chevy, Kia.
I haven't really paid attention.
Pay attention. They're almost empty.
Wow.
They have no inventory.
I believe it.
Like people need to pay attention to what's going on in the world. Okay, what's your next point?
Let's see. So it says EDD has identified 11 billion in fraud, which includes people not in prison.
So how do they identify? So are they going after those people?
I had it somewhere, but I know they went after some people. There's people. There was one lady. She used to work for EDD. I don't remember what city she lived in, but she had applied for 3. She had like 3 unemployment cases she had applied for. one of them using one of the senators' names actually, which I'm not gonna say. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
So yeah, pretty crazy, right?
Yeah, that's a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Like $11 billion, like that would fix a lot of issues we have.
Yeah.
That's not the people in prison.
And that's not people in prison.
So I think it's in the $1 billion that we've lost to the prison system too.
Mm-hmm.
Cause like the one guy that was talking about his baby mama, he's like, yeah, like all they gotta do is get someone's name in prison. They fill out all the information, just get the card sent to them, and then they just put money on the books for them.
Yeah, and then there's people that are actually, you know, they get their unemployment benefits, and then somehow someone hacks into whatever and takes their money. And then how do they get their money back? How do they prove, hey, I didn't use my card? You know, how do I get my money back? That happened to my niece.
Really?
She went, a few months ago, my niece's daughter, and she went to the bank to get her money, and she doesn't get too much. It was like maybe $700 every 2 weeks, and her money was gone.
Wow. There's no way to prove it. It's easy to get the
Yeah.
money, but it's hard to prove that you lost it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Any other points?
I think it was just on the emergency relief for the moratorium. It said, I know they said there was 46 billion available, but they've only dispersed 3 billion of it.
Right, and like they're using everything as an excuse now. So there's actually a lawsuit, and so Biden extended it, right?
Yes.
So from what I understand, Biden extended it after the Supreme Court said that legally he can't.
Mm-hmm.
And even Biden said legally he can't. Same thing Obama did with the DACA, right? Obama said like with the swipe of the pen, I can't give these people their papers, but like he signed it anyways, and now people think that like DACA is a real thing. And, like I'm not trying to offend anyone,
Mm-hmm.
but he knew what he did was illegal.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing with Biden. This is the first time. I shouldn't say first time. It's unprecedented to be using the Third Amendment. What is the Third Amendment? Sorry.
One moment. Here's what I found.
So the Third Amendment that places restrictions on quartering soldiers in private homes without the owner's consent, forbidding the practice in peacetime. So all this mortgage moratorium,
Mm-hmm.
we have police officers, we have the Army, we have Marines, we have Navy people that are getting this mortgage moratorium,
Mm-hmm.
and it's against the Third Amendment.
Wow.
So, like, because you can't force a homeowner to give up their house to someone. So again, I'm not saying like I don't support our military or our police officers or that they're doing something malicious.
Mm-hmm.
However, you can't be forced to have a mortgage moratorium on your own home and be forced to quarter any soldiers.
Yeah.
Which is quite interesting to actually have someone bring up the Third Amendment, because you never hear of the Third Amendment.
Mm-hmm.
Did you know what the Third Amendment was before I?
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the first is freedom of speech. You
Yeah.
have freedom of
Everybody
press,
knows that one.
the Second Amendment, and then the fourth is the right to privacy. Like,
Mm-hmm.
but everyone skipped over the Third Amendment.
Yeah.
So, any other thing you want to bring out?
Not really. It just says more than 6 million renter households are behind on rent. I actually know someone who, I was like, why did they move? And found out they decided during the pandemic, even though 3 people in the household were working, that they weren't going to pay rent. Took vacations to, Florida, this and that. Someone got their boobs done.
Right.
But you couldn't pay rent.
Yeah. So the last thing I want to say on that is those people that aren't paying rent. Like when the renter moratorium. Let's just go with the renter moratorium. When that comes done, when that's done, and they get evicted, not only will they have an eviction on their record, they will also have the trouble finding a new place to rent because no one's going to rent to someone that hasn't paid rent. If they move before they get evicted,
Yeah.
the new renter will most likely call their old renter and ask, like, did they pay their rent on time? And if they say no, the chances of them getting the apartment or the house is very slim. So these people are hurting themselves.
Yep.
The other thing on the mortgage moratorium, right? And it's not with all banks. So like if you didn't check it out before you stop paying your mortgage, like you should check it out, because a lot of people think that at the end of the mortgage moratorium, all your mortgage payments get put on the back end of your mortgage. You know what I mean by that?
Yeah, I do.
Okay. For those that don't know what I mean, is like if I have a 30-year mortgage, and like I just bought my house before it, so like for 18 months I haven't been paying my mortgage. Those 18 months get added to the back end of the 30 years. So like
Yeah.
I'd have 31 years and 8 months of mortgage still
Yep.
due. But what some banks are doing is, as soon as the mortgage moratorium is up, they're asking for all the rent or all the mortgage up front. So that would mean 18 months of mortgage all at once.
Yeah.
So the average, like in California, like on a cheap end, is $1,500. So that's 15,000 plus another 7.5. We'll say 6. That means $21,000 due all at once,
And they're not going to be able to afford it.
which means they're gonna have a foreclosure, which means they'll have a bankruptcy, which means they're gonna be deeper in debt.
And nowhere to go.
And last thing is, I hear they're gonna extend the unemployment.
Oh wow.
Why, like, if everyone's dependent on the government, why would they not extend it?
Yeah.
The more dependent we are on them, the more we just become sheep.
Yeah, and that's why I chose to not collect unemployment anymore.
Right.
Because I was getting at least 1,800 every 2 weeks. So more than what I was making when I was working.
Right.
So yeah.
So we'll see what happens. Alright. So we'll figure out something to talk about next week. Please let us know how you feel about these issues and comment, like, subscribe, and share. Thanks.